Assalamu alaikum students. Today I've got a very interesting topic, and that is oral communication, and this is part one. Oral communication is not just confined to interacting with your friends, classmates, or teachers. It may take different forms. This means oral communication is not that straightforward. Let's have a look at some of the forms and try to analyze each in terms of audience size, time taken, speaker's intent, two-way exchange, and audio-visual equipment. Now here we have a chart which represents forms of oral communication, and the first one is impromptu speech. Impromptu speeches require the speakers to speak on the given topics spontaneously. The audience size ranges from small to large, time taken is short, two-way exchange occurs sometimes, but usually there may not be any two-way exchange because there aren't question answer sessions in the end. A speaker's intent is to persuade or to inform. Audio-visual equipment could be used. The second form of oral communication on the chart is a sermon. Sermons are held in religious ceremonies. The audience size ranges from small to large. Time taken ranges from short to long. Two-way exchange rarely occurs. A speaker's intent is to persuade or to inform. Audiovisual equipment could be used. Then comes work presentation. Work presentations are held in organizations. The audience size ranges from small to medium. Time taken ranges from medium to long. Two-way exchange often occurs. A speaker's intent is to persuade or to inform. Audio-visual equipment is often used. Work briefing. Work briefing is held in organizations. Audience size ranges from small to medium. Time taken is short. Two-way exchange often occurs. Speaker's intent is to inform. Audiovisual equipment is often used. Then comes a sport pep talk. A sport pep talk is held to motivate team members. The audience size is small, time taken is short, two-way exchange rarely occurs. A speaker's intent is to persuade or to inform. Audio-visual equipment could be used, and they are of different types. The last form of oral communication on the chart is lift elevator pitch. Lift elevator pitch is held by sales representatives in the elevator. The audience size is small. Time taken is too short because they have to finish their talk before the elevator reaches its destination. Two-way exchange is possible because there may be a query on the listener's part. The speaker's intent is to persuade or to inform. Audio-visual equipment is rarely used because there is not much time and opportunity. Now, before you are engaged in persuading your audience, you really need to figure out two important things. The first one is the degree of authority. The degree of authority means the power an individual has to make things happen. This is like when you're appearing in an interview and you note that the person who is chairing the meeting actually has got some degree of authority, then you would of course pay more attention to that person. So this is, something natural. Once we know that the authority has got, can actually make a certain decision about our talk, right? So we are of course likely to pay more attention to that authority. Another important aspect which you really need to consider is the degree of influence. The degree of influence refers to the extent a person has power to influence the decision or decision maker. In most of the organizations, people who have got expertise in the field, right, or they've got technical knowledge are actually the one who have the degree of influence or some kind of degree of influence, right? So they can influence the decision makers' decision, especially if people are being hired or proposals are being approved. Students, apart from decision makers and influencers, there are two more types of people uh, who you may find in a group while talking or giving a persuasive talk, and they are collectors and socials. Collectors are the one who actually collect information, and they usually get you connected with decision makers or influencers, right? So they are important people in the manner that you cannot access decision makers and influencers without their help, and you are mostly engaged, in communication with them. So you really need to give them due attention. Another type is socials. Now, socials are the people who may be part or member of a panel, but uh, they have no decision making power and they cannot influence. So they still should be given some attention, because at times some socials do create problems for the speakers. For example, by raising a very difficult question, technical question, right? They may draw decision makers, or influencers, or collectors' attentions towards a particular point. Now, analyzing and working with problem audiences and audience members. Some students, they really fear the stage, right? Because they have developed stage fright, and usually I tell them that you got to keep three things in mind if you really want to overcome the stage fright. The first one is most people tend to be ethical and well intended. You really need to have a good image of the people you are going to talk to. You got to understand that usually people are ethical, right? That means they don't want to harm others. They want to be fair and honest in the judgment, right? And their intentions are not bad. If you keep on telling this to yourself, you will probably boost your confidence. The second point is that people do not want to have their time wasted by disruption, and they want to hear what you have to say. Students, remember, when you're going to give a talk, just keep this thing in mind, that that people actually are there to listen to you. They have invested at least their precious time, so they would not want their time to be wasted. So they would not disrupt your talk, and they would rather give you an opportunity, right, to share your views. So if you keep all the negative thoughts aside, and you actually send positive messages to your mind, you would probably end up speaking well, and you would definitely overcome the stage fright. The third point, which is also very important, and that is people like to avoid embarrassment. No one wants to be noticed, and and face any sort of embarrassment, right? So people usually or faces sorry yeah any sort of embarrassment. So this means that people are not going to disrupt your talk, or they're not going to pull your legs, all right? And and by doing it, so they would not like to be noticed, right, by others. And in case if your talk is going well, right, they actually may be given a shut up call by other members in the audience, right? So usually people do have this sense, and they normally avoid any sort of embarrassment. They themselves are shy, right? Or they themselves are all conscious of, putting themselves into an embarrassing situation. So they would not actually do any harm to you or any harm to your dog. Is that clear? Now, if you keep these 3 points in mind, you would probably do well on the stage. And please, you try to, you know, hold positive thoughts and hold positive thoughts in your mind when you are going to give a talk, whether it's persuasive or informative. I hope, students, you have understood all these points, and you have any query, you can ask me in my online during my online class, or you can also WhatsApp me your questions, right? If you have any. Hope you are fine. Stay blessed. Stay home. Have a nice time.